Hello, everybody. Okay, so we're one of the founding sponsors of Honolulu Tech Week, and I first met Michael Bennett on March 18th, 2015 at the Hawaii Chamber of Commerce of Northern California event in San Jose. So we've known each other since then. I gave him a ride in my jalopy Nissan Frontier truck that day, maybe to a Caltrain stop, I'm not sure, but I know he rode in my car. And we've been friends ever since. He then became in the leadership role of the Hawaii Chamber of Commerce of Northern California, and we've bought tables at their gala every year since 2017. So we've been happy to support Michael and his efforts. And so when I learned about him organizing Honolulu Tech Week, I figured it'd be a great idea to be involved here as well. So my name is Ho'ala Greavy. I'm the founder of Paubox. Our mission at Paubox is to become the market leader for HIPAA-compliant email and HIPAA-compliant communication. And Paubox started by taking a customer out to lunch. So at the time, the CEO of the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Hawaii, Siana Austin Hunt, I took her out to lunch in Chinatown, and she described a business problem to me, and I thought I could do something about it, and I turned around and built something for her, and that turned out to be an all-nighter at the Kisaten Cafe on Pi'ikoi Street, which is no longer around, but it's the only thing open all night. So it just stuck in my head that I had to do this thing, and so I just needed to find a place that was open all night. So I very quickly learned the market did not take us seriously being in Hawaii. So in 2015, I moved the company to a place that we would be taken seriously, which is San Francisco. And before my move, it was people like Dave Kozuki mentioned that I should go to the Hawaii Chamber of Commerce of Northern California event. So that's how I crossed paths with Michael Bennett. So when we made 100 customers for Paubox in 2015, I felt very grateful for the city of San Francisco. So we gave away 100 pairs of socks and 100 spam musubi outside of our office on the Mission 16 BART stop. And then when we crossed 500 customers, we did 500 spam musubi. And by the time we hit 1,000 spam musubi, I got to looking at the numbers and man, this is thousands of dollars. Maybe there's better leverage. So in 2019, we launched the Paubox Kahikina Scholarship, whose primary objective is to encourage Native Hawaiians to pursue careers in STEM and technology in general. So we can talk a little bit more about that later in the panel. So that's where we are today. Today we have over 6,000 customers, all 50 states, about 7 patents. We're Series A venture-backed, and we're just keep grinding away. And so on our panel today, I'd like to do introductions, and I'll start with the customer that's been with us the longest. So Gavin Steele of Ultras, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gavin Steele. I work at Ultras here in Oahu. We've been in business for 55 years now, successfully serving HR, payroll solutions to our customers. We have an in-house built application that takes employees from hire all the way through to retire. Previously, I worked in San Francisco at a grants management company, a startup there. We serve the largest foundations in the States. I'm director of product, so I oversee talking to customers, figuring out what they want to see in our products, and then working with engineers to get those things built, going through that feedback loop and building successful products.
Thank you, Gavin. Let's go on to Daryl Ann Ho.
Hi, I'm Daryl Ann. Do I turn it on? Does it work? Hi, I'm Daryl Ann Ho. I'm one of the co-founders for Malama Health Services, and I'm also the director of clinical services. So our company is medical. We deal with hospice, end-of-life, pain, and palliative. We are located on the island of Oahu, and I have, our staff is out on the road, so they have to have their laptops and their phones always with them, and we needed a HIPAA-compliant system or platform, and that's what they use out on the field. My 90 employees use that whole platform. So,
Thank you, Daryl Ann. Let's go on to Bo Monday.
Yeah, hi, Bo Monday. I'm the CISO at Punahou School. I think most of you know who we are. If you don't, we're the largest private K-12 in the nation. Almost 4,000 students on our campus here in Honolulu. We use Paubox for everybody, students, staff, no matter.
Thank you, Bo. Let's go into the next section here, and let's talk about life before Paubox. And I think this illustrates the key insight to our company, which is that we remove the friction normally associated with secure email while maintaining the compliance. And it turns out in healthcare, it's a terribly broken system. And it's my belief that the fax machine to this day is the backbone of communication in healthcare. And if you don't work in healthcare, you might think I'm joking, but just ask anybody at any hospital how many faxes they send per month, and the number will astound you. So I'd like to start off first with Daryl Ann. If you could explain how life was like before Paubox.
Oh, so life before Paubox was quite complicated. There were many different systems out there that are extremely cumbersome. Their platforms were not easy to use, very clunky. We did a lot of faxing, and we get e-faxes, but that still wasn't secure. So when my people would open it up, it's still not secure. So we were looking for something to make everybody compliant, because everybody was carrying papers around, in their car. So we demoed several different systems, and none of them we felt would be conducive for our people out in the field. We need to be able to see things on the fly, especially when we're in front of patients. So we finally were referred to Paubox. It was just by a word of mouth of, hey, there's this company in Hawaii or based out of Hawaii that may be doing this. So reach out to them, see. And we did, and got to speak to one of their marketing people and told them what we wanted, and lo and behold, it was so smooth sailing, and we got everybody on. So it's been great for us. And it's been seamless. And our staff and our end users, they don't even know that they have to, work with clunky systems. It's just seamless. So.
Thank you, Daryl Ann. They've been a customer since 2019. Thank you for being our customers. Let's go on to Bo.
Yeah, we've been a customer for, I think, almost 5 years also. We were using Virtru, and I don't know if you saw me checking to make sure Virtru is not a sponsor here. But with Virtru, we had to intentionally deploy it to people that we thought needed encrypted email. And that was a management nightmare. We had to train those folks how to use the tool, when to use the tool. We had to trust that they were going to make the right choice, to encrypt something they needed to encrypt. So it was a fragile solution, and we had to license it on a per user basis, so it got kind of expensive. And people would pop up, like somebody in our athletics department would ask, how do I make sure that this release form that I'm sending to a student and their family is going to be secure? And we'd offer them Virtru and just trust that they knew when to use it. And when Hawala approached me, because we've got several Punahou alumni on Hawala's staff, and they came to us and said what they were doing with Paubox. I'm like, wait a minute, you mean I can give this to everybody, and they would never have to think about encrypting their email ever again? Sign me up. And so we've been a customer of theirs for many years now. And the transition was a little awkward because people that were used to having to do something to encrypt their email now didn't have to think about it anymore. And so they were like, how do I know that it got encrypted? And I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll make sure it's encrypted. Huala's going to make sure it's encrypted. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And that was a big cultural shift for us. And it took a lot of friction completely out of the whole emailing process and took a lot of stress out of people. So it's been a great change for us.
Thanks, Bo. Let's go on to Gavin.
Yeah, so Ultras has a slightly different use case. We've seen rapid growth when we started building out our own application. We deal in payroll, critical information. People need to get paid. There's a lot of information on file that we need to protect. And with that growth, we actually found that we became a target for people essentially spoofing some of our executive team. So contacting employees and trying to make them take action and do certain things. And for us, we make use of the Exec Protect product that they have. We now use the geofencing as well. And so life before, you use a lot of services that say they're compliant, and you have to dig into the details and look at your own use cases. And we found that actually we deal with compliance, so we were compliant, but we had this particular use case where, because we deal with people's payroll, with timesheets and things like that, we needed to make sure that executives at the companies that we represent and ourselves aren't spoofed, essentially, and have people pretending to be an executive, pretending to be someone on your staff, and that's when we started using the product.
Thanks, Gavin. Let's go on to the meat and potatoes here, where we're going to talk about customer feedback as it relates to Hawaii companies. And last week, we were doing a prep call or prep Zoom to get ready for this. And Bo, you had an interesting viewpoint on that. Would you care to share more?
Yeah, I think that, since we were a relatively early adopter of Paubox, we've always been very transparent with what we think the product could do better. And we see the development all the time. Like the early iteration of Paubox Forms was originally, one form where people could submit secure documents or submit documents on Paubox website, and they would arrive to us in a secure fashion. And we, gave a lot of feedback with the Paubox Forms team. Now you can have multiple mailboxes. You can brand them. They can, you can have custom fields on them. It's really become a solid product for us, all based on the, the back and forth that we constantly have with the team. So I think we have, quarterly calls with the team currently to talk about any product improvements. And I see those improvements getting baked into the product constantly. So it's great.
Thanks, Bo. Let's go on to Gavin.
Yeah, we were talking when we were preparing, for this panel about some of the uniqueness of doing business here in Oahu. And I don't think I've ever felt closer to my customers than working here. I seem to be a phone call away from all of them, and you might find that with your businesses as well. And so in my role as a product manager, I have to be taking that customer input all the time. Either I'm driving new functionality based on that input and listening to that feedback, or we're fixing things that isn't working, for our customers. And so our experience has been pretty much the same when we've had conversations. It's like talking to somebody who's here in Hawaii with us, right? And that's as I said, one of the unique things about doing business here. But very responsive. If we have input on the product, they're here to help. They want to solve those problems. And we kind of have the same kind of approach at Ultras.
Thanks, Gavin. I completely agree with what he just said. I think Honolulu is a fantastic place to build a product because of the access to your customer base. You can take California, for example. The capital's in Sacramento, but your customers are likely not there. Whereas Honolulu, the capital's less than 2 miles from here, as well as downtown Honolulu, Waikiki, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think having come from San Francisco to here, I wish I'd gone the other way. I feel like there's so much I've learned here that going back to San Francisco, I would know how to be closer with my customers, not to be scared to pick up the phone and have that conversation. So, yeah, that's one of the great things about doing business here.
If I could just add on to what you were saying, I've been doing IT security for almost 30 years now, and I've spent a lot of that time on the mainland, East Coast, Midwest, West Coast, and I've never experienced more of a community type of attitude that we have here in Hawaii. The companies that are born here tend to be very connected to the community. There's a very special relationship that I think that Hawaiian-born companies have with the customers here that I've never seen in any other area of the country that I've worked in. So I think that's a really unique perspective for people that are here in Hawaii. And I think it drives a lot of the programs like Huala was talking about. The companies here tend to be much more connected to the community and much more active in the community. I think that's really special.
Thanks, Bo. How about you, Darylyn?
Yeah, so because we're, local based, we really wanted to stay within the local community and utilize whatever, local companies that we could. And we were really, really excited when we found out that there was a local tech company here that could provide us everything that we wanted for our communications base. Because it's true, you just pick up the phone and say, hey, help me out here, and the locals are going to help you out, but not calling the mainland like 6 hours ahead, and, oh, I'm sorry, they're closed, and we're running into a tech problem. So for us, it was just a win-win situation, and it's been great.
Something to add,
I
Gavin?
was just going to say as well, I don't want to say security is boring. To me, obviously, it's not. But I want it to be boring. I want it to be taken care of. I want to be working on my product and releasing things and not having to worry about, about security. And I think there's a phrase from education that's like, you kind of want to center your pendulum as a business. So I don't know the makeup of the audience, but if you're a small startup and you're thinking about compliance now, you kind of want to get that stuff out of the way so you can focus on the actual products that you're building and you're launching and taking out to the market. Obviously, we've got 55 years of experience at Ultras, and we have we do have an IT team as well, but we kind of want to be confident that stuff is taken care of so we can actually do our primary business, which is delivering HR, payroll, and those types of things.
It's my understanding Ultras is one of the largest software development shops in Hawaii. You guys have a bunch of programmers, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We got a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of programs that I work with, yeah.
When it comes to compliance, we kept hearing over and over again that our customers wanted us to have the highest form of compliance in healthcare, which is known as the HITRUST certification. And we kept hearing it over and over again. So being that we're a customer feedback-driven organization, we decided to go and get the HITRUST certification. That was a ton of work. That was in 2019. We got HITRUST certified. And now I led the charge on that one, a lot of coffee. And now we have annual renewals, and our Chief Operating Officer and Chief Compliance Officer, Rick Kurohara back there in the red Aloha shirt, runs the renewal HITRUST certification, and I am very thankful for Rick because it's still a lot of work. So compliance is a big deal to our customers, and that makes it a big deal to us. So yes, I agree on that. On Bo's point on the community, so the reason why we created the Paubox Kahikina Scholarship there's a few reasons. So one, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship when I went to college. That scholarship no longer exists. Two, giving out more than 1,000 spam musubi, like I said, was costing thousands of dollars, and most people in San Francisco don't even know what a spam musubi is. We would run onto the Muni buses during the stops, because we do this on Market Street, and we'd toss them at people just to get rid of the 1,000. And anyhow, so I thought the better leverage is investing in people. So in 2019, we started off with our first recipient, Nick Wong, who attended UC Berkeley and is now working at a startup called Paragon. And now we've done multiple iterations. It's a recurring scholarship. So students get $1,000 a year until they graduate. We now have 46 recipients, 40 active, 6 graduates. I ran some numbers before this to make sure I knew what I was talking about. 50% Kane, 50% Wahine. Kamehameha Schools Kapolama has the most recipients, and coming in second at 9% of that 46 total is Punahou School. So we get a lot of good pipeline from Punahou School, so thank you, Bo. So a lot of Hawaiians at Punahou, so I appreciate that. None from my alma mater yet. I keep looking out for McKinley High School. We got to do a better job of getting the word out to public schools. Michael Bennett, Kaiser grad. I haven't seen any Kaiser grad applications, so we'll keep trying. But another reason why we started it is because one of our other Paubox foundations, which we took a page from Amazon, we wrote down the things that matter to us. We have 8 principles. The topmost is customer feedback. Another one is we're leaders, not followers. So by having the scholarship, we're putting forth that the leader always gives back. And I see that as a paragon example in my era would be Walter Dodds, where the legend of Walter Dodds is 40 hours at First Hawaiian Bank, 40 hours a week in the community. So I can't do that amount, but I can do something. So the scholarship is us demonstrating to the public that we're the leader, and to me, being a leader means giving back. And I think that's a distinctly Hawaii business proposition. I don't really see it so much in Silicon Valley. I mean, tremendous companies coming out of Silicon Valley, just different values. So that's a little bit about the scholarship. Bo, did you have, I know you mentioned earlier about the Hawaii Business Connection, but maybe we can dig into that more, because I thought that was kind of neat what you're saying about that level of connection and just maybe a little different value structure on companies born in Hawaii.
Yeah, it's really a stark contrast when we deal with companies that are mainland based versus companies that are here. The companies that are here are born here and have Hawaiian people in their ranks. They're much more relationship driven. We don't see that in mainland companies at all. It's a very big contrast. The Hawaiian-born companies tend to come out and see us a lot more and want to talk to us, get our feedback on their products. The mainland companies aren't as interested. The mainland companies, I don't think, view Hawaii as a big market, and I don't know if that's what you see also, Hoala.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes it's hard to get their attention, but people that grew up here and are in business here, or even started here and moved to the mainland, they still have that Hawaiian connection. And I talk to Hoala all the time, even though he's in Alaska or wherever. He's a jet setter, but there's always that personal connection that I don't seem to get from any of the mainland vendors that I deal with.
Yeah, it's a lot less of a vendor relationship here. It's more of a partnership, with other businesses where you're trying to work together to make your products better for both the end user and also for the business as well to grow. And I know there's a lot of people here as entrepreneurs and startups. Like, you're gonna come up against compliance at some point, and you kind of want to get your head around it. You either want to partner, with an organization so you can move on, like I said before, and just focus on what you actually want to deliver.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that you reminded me of is that the companies that were born here tend to be much more engaged in the community. I think what you described, Hoala, as you become the leader, you become successful. The companies that were born here tend to, at some point, look and say, okay, now that we've gotten to where we are, how can we help Hawaii? I think that's such a fundamental aspect of companies that were born here that I don't see anywhere else. I lived in Seattle for 15 years. I really didn't see a lot of companies taking a step back and say, okay, now that we're here, what can we do to help the community? And in the degree that I see with Hawaiian-born companies.
Darrell Ann, we held a winter networking event last December for the Paubox Kahikina Scholarship, and we did something new as a small experiment where we invited our customers as well, and Darrell Ann attended. Would you care to share the people you met at that event?
Yeah, that was amazing. So I met actually quite a few of the recipients for the Kahikina Scholarship. And it was nice because I got to speak to two of them that were going into the medical field or were interested in the medical field. So we had long discussions of the schooling and what else was out there for them. All they were thinking of was, oh, I'm just going to be a nurse or I'm just going to be a doctor. But there's much more to just being a nurse or being a doctor. There's all these other avenues in medical. So for me, it was great because I was able to actually speak with the young ones coming up and help to nurture the young ones coming up to have them come back to Hawaii, that there is a future here back in Hawaii, that when they move away, they don't have to stay away, that there's things here for them. So I thought that was great because by Paubox putting this on, it gave some of these recipients the hope that, there is something here for us, and there is a bigger community here for us that will help us, whether it be in tech or medical or retail or, just as an entrepreneur, it was able to open their eyes. And then for us as Paubox customers, we were able to talk to these recipients and other people too. So, another way of just giving back. So for all of us to just kind of give back too, it's kind of a nice platform.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that. There was the event in December, was it? Yeah. But we also, Hawala's been hosting these virtual events with the scholarship recipients as well, where, we'll get on with the recipients and they'll talk about, their current educational path. And, I kind of selfishly join those calls because I want to pull those kids back. When they graduate college, I want them to come back home, right? And serve their community here in Hawaii. So we're always talking, and you could tell with those kids, sometimes it's heartbreaking. They don't feel like they can, start their lives here. So it's really about setting them on a good path, let them get through education, and then find them a way to come back home, when they're ready to start their professional career.
And that's where Ultras picks them up. We take them in through our staffing program, and we have the jobs on the island. So we can definitely tell you that there are jobs on the island. We're seeing a lot of growth, and so it's like a full circle from scholarship through to working here.
Yeah, a lot of the students don't realize that there is a job market here. There are jobs. And it's just, how can we guide them in their educational path to make sure that they have the most opportunities if they do want to come home?
So those Zoom social mixers for the Kahikina scholarship originated by having lunch with the Paubox Kahikina scholarship recipients. So in my mind, I take the principle of customer feedback and I pretend our recipients are our customers, and I say, how can we get better? How can I give you more value? And that's where the idea came from. So it's just relentless. Everything to me is, I'm going to pretend they're our customers. How can we serve them better? So that's where that came up. And in fact, one of our recipients did have a summer job, paid job with Punahou, and this person did not go to Punahou. So very thankful it was in your IT department. So very cool.
Yeah, and your founding story around listening to a problem and building a whole business, from that problem. It's like, that's how in product management, that's how we work. We want to get into the shoes of our end users, hear their actual problems. What are they doing in their work? What's the friction? And then building out tools. In our case, it's how do I track my time? How do I submit my timesheet? How do I pay my team? Listening to how they do that work and basically unblocking them with software. So it's really important to be listening right from the beginning.
Yeah, that ability to access the customer, or at least in Honolulu, because I'm a townie, I went to McKinley, so that's what I know best. It just really, I've never seen it anywhere else, so that's a big advantage. We took some pages out of Amazon because we admire how they run their business. So the Paubox foundations are in direction with the Paubox principles. And another one of them is big ideas matter. So what that means is 5 years from now, when I'm on stage with Bo, Gavin, or Daryl Ann, or we're doing a Pauhana together, whatever, I know with 100% certainty, Bo is not going to say to me, man, really love Paubox, but could you make it less secure? Or Daryl Ann saying, man, big fan of Paubox, but could you make it, I need more downtime. I need that thing to be down more. Or Gavin saying, it's too easy to use. Can you make it harder? Can you make more clicks? Can you make the interface more confusing? And so for us, the three ideas behind Paubox that will never change are security, reliability, and ease of use. So we know with absolute certainty, those are things we're spending time on. And when our customers are giving us feedback around those corollaries, we know 100% we better listen. And that's what led us to get the high trust certification, to improve our cloud offerings, et cetera. So to us, the Paubox foundations, the customer feedback at the top is a big driver on that. And hey, I'll pop a surprise question here. I'll start with Bo. Let's do a real life example. What's something that's missing from Paubox that we can do for you?
Well, I think that the only thing that people miss from the other encryption solutions is being able to pull back an email that they've sent. or expire one. So that would be the only thing that I've had one person ask for that since we transitioned 5 years ago.
Yeah, thanks, Bo. That does come up. Without getting too far into the weeds, the ability to retract an email, that's afforded only when you control the entire ecosystem, when you have a portal-based approach. So a little bit of give and take there. For us internally, we've set our Google Workspace setting to delay the actual sending of the email for 5 to 10 seconds. So if you think you've done something in error, I can just undo it in Google Workspace.
Yeah, and the one person that asked for that, subsequently Google has implemented a secure email feature that kind of gets them to the same result. So there's a workaround now.
Yeah, so interesting to note on that one. That one's useful when the recipient is also a Google user, Gmail, Google Workspace. But if you're emailing outside of the Google ecosystem, then it just becomes a normal user-based username, password portal. So some effectiveness, but there's quite a few users out there in healthcare or just in general using other products like Microsoft 365. So that's what we're seeing in the market. I'll go on to Daryl Ann. Is there anything else we can do for you folks?
Besides having all of my medical records being done right away, yeah. I think kind of same on the same lines of, you accidentally send out an email, and if it gives you 30 seconds to say undo it or do it, I think that would be a good thing. Especially when we're sending out, confidential information. Sometimes we click the wrong name, and then it's going out. So you have to be a little bit more careful on that. It would be great if you could tap into AT&T and Verizon and all of those for texting. Because a lot of times with our patients, they like to text us, and we can't text things back because it's not secure. So that would be another great thing that could happen.
I'll follow up with you after this. We released Paubox texting earlier this year because
nice.
It's a pattern. Texting comes up a lot. If there was a true market leader for HIPAA-compliant texting, I don't think we'd hear about it as much as we do, and that's why we turned around and built it. So I'll touch base with you on that. Thanks, Darlene. How about you, Gavin? Anything come to mind?
Not really. You released the geofencing, and that was really important to us. I'm pretty sure our team submitted some feedback around that. But nothing as of late. That was the last thing that we were looking at was geofencing, making sure we can see where people are in a particular space when we anticipate them sending a message.
Thanks, Gavin. We're a little ahead of schedule. Happy to do some Q&A. Michael Bennett, can we do Q&A? Sure, we're going to do Q&A. Let's get an extra mic. Any questions?
Can you check? Who's first? Okay, I'm gonna go here and then you and then you. We'll order that. Name and then name, company, title, and then a question.
My name is Don Mangiarelli. I'm with Enterprise Technology Solutions. We DBA as Cybersecurity Hawaii. So my question to you is, I've known you forever and a day from Pau Spam. I think I was one of your first customers.
That's correct.
All right.
With the Scheidler Group.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who go from a startup idea like you did? I mean, you put together Pau Spam, right? And I'm sure that it took you, I don't know if you sat up in that cafe a bunch of nights putting together Pau Spam, but it was a dream back then, and you have made it a reality. So what advice would you give to startups for that, to get to where you're at?
Thanks, Don. So going back a little bit, I moved home in 2001. My dad had some health issues, so I came back for that. And I was doing Linux consulting in Honolulu in 2001. No one knew what the hell I was talking about, right? And I'm this Linux zealot. Oh, it can do everything. Oh, okay, sure, but what is that? So again, pattern here, customer feedback. Some people in my limited customer base, because it was very hard to get customers doing Linux consulting, they were talking about this email spam problem, and at the time it was a very big problem. And so I had just come from San Francisco working at an email company. So I've been doing email for a long time. And I pulled a series of all-nighters to build PAL spam on Linux systems. So that was my answer to, here's what you can do with Linux. And at the time, there were several ways you could implement a spam filter. So one of them was you build an appliance and you rack that appliance in the office or data center of your customer's Microsoft Exchange server. Well, being in Hawaii, I couldn't compete on hardware. I'd get slaughtered on the cost and shipping, et cetera, and it's just me. So then I thought about another way, and that's to use DNS records to route email over the internet. So having an email background, I asked our customers to change their DNS records, specifically the mail exchange record, MX record, to point it at PAL spam. We do our filtering, and then we'd send it on to the customer's on-premise exchange server. And that worked out pretty well. And then Architects Hawaii came along, and they were asking questions, and they went, oh, well, how many servers do you have? Oh, I have one server. Well, you're going to need more than one server to get our business. So I pulled another all-nighter and spun up 2 servers. And I was like, hey, I got a cluster now. So boom, Architects Hawaii signed up. And you know, this is back in 2002, 2003. You might want to verify this. I know I'm being recorded, but I'm pretty sure we were the first SaaS company in Hawaii. I didn't even know what the word meant. I wasn't aware of it back then. It just made the most sense to me. Racking servers in a data center and then charging a subscription for that service. Probably the first cloud company in Hawaii, if you're excluding ISPs, which I don't know, that's not really cloud. And so I guess the advice is, at least for me, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's OCD, but if I get something in my head, it'll approach a moment where that's all I think about. And hey, I got pretty good at pulling all-nighters, so let me just go back to the all-nighter drawing board and launch as fast as you can, and then put it right back in your customer and say, hey, is this what you're looking for? And then not trying to guess the needs of the market, because I think that's very difficult to do. So launch early. If you like all-nighters, pull the all-nighters, use customer feedback. And at least in the B2B model, that tends to work the best. So, and we're still doing that to this day with Paubox texting, Paubox forms, just an incredible need in the market. Healthcare is very badly broken still. So for us, it represents a lot of opportunity. Thanks, Mad Dog. Oh, and by the way, Shiler came along where Mad Dog was the director of IT, and they were, I think, 5th customer or something for PAL spam way back in the day. So thanks for being our customer back then.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm a PV solar consulting engineer. My question is, you have over 1,000 customers now. How do you elicit feedback from all or many of them? It makes sense here in Hawaii. You have community and a background here, but for your customers who are elsewhere around the world, what are some of the strategies you use to make sure you're serving them and understanding what they need?
Yeah, thank you. Daniel? Thanks, Daniel. So we took a page out of the Salesforce playbook. Dennis Coben, the co-founder of Symantec, he lives here. He's one of our advisors. He taught me this complicated term. It's called R&D, rip off and duplicate. So we R&D'd the playbook from Salesforce, and we started doing social mixers. And the idea behind a social mixer is you invite your customers and prospects to the same place, and you make sure they have food and drink in their hand, and eventually the customer and prospect will meet, and they'll do the testimonials for you, and you can also get their feedback there. Then the pandemic happened, so we flipped it to a Zoom social mixer, and we do the same thing, but just on a Zoom, and then we have 2 questions. What do you want to drink, and where do you want it delivered? And so we do those once a month. We're having one today. I wasn't unable to make it because it coincides with today's event. So we still do them monthly. And as an example of that, several years ago during the pandemic, some of our customers, now this is healthcare now, so they have these legacy on-premise VoIP servers for their phone system. And some of these VoIP systems do not transcribe the content of the voicemail. So they're sending the email to the employee's mailbox, And our customers, the IT directors, are very nervous that their user will play that voicemail on speakerphone while they're in line at Starbucks. So as they described this to me, which is a potential HIPAA violation, depending on what's in that, when they described this to me, I thought, you know what, we can do something about that. And within a month, what we had done now for a select group of customers, we want to roll this out more, is if the attachment in the email is a sound file, MP3, WAV, etc., then open the file, transcribe it, insert the transcription into the email, and send it to the recipient. And it turns out for our customers with these legacy voicemail systems, it saves them a whole bunch of time. So the Zoom Social Mixer, as a way to get feedback, I tend to see, especially after the second or third drink, you'll really get that feedback. So we still do that to this day. The social mixers, we go to conferences, and then I'll make it a personal goal of mine to go and visit, 5 customers in a quarter. Doesn't matter where they are, I'll get on a plane and go visit. And that really became more doable after the pandemic. But during the pandemic, we were definitely doing Zoom social mixers, and Ultras was part of our first one. I actually dropped off a bottle of wine to the person that joined the Zoom social mixer during the pandemic. It's on our blog post. Gavin, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I did. I think when you're a startup, the relationship with the customer doesn't end after you get the sale. So you got to keep that relationship going, and so you build that back and forth with those customers. When you release new things, you go to them and you say, "How did we do? Did we meet your expectation?" And you start to build that relationship with your customers as you grow bigger and bigger. That group of customers that you go to might shrink, and you might start looking at your data and being like, "These are our most engaged users. I'm going to go and speak to them." And if you've already built that back and forth with them, whether it's through direct email or a survey on your site or a feedback tab or anything like that, I think the important thing is that you respond to the feedback that you get. You don't just collect it and do your own thing in a corner and then you're pulling out rabbits from a hat, right? It's like you got to listen to their feedback, tell them you've heard it, show them the product or a prototype, see if you've hit the mark. If you have, ship it. And I think that cycle over and over again is you're going to build great products for your customers.
Michael, was there a third? Oh, there we go.
Hi, my name is Juliana Ceja. My background is product management, agile coaching, worked at companies such as Amazon and Here Technologies, currently in transition, looking for my next opportunity. But my question is for Daryl Ann. In regards to medtech, what do you see as the biggest gap or opportunity, or inefficiencies? I know you mentioned a little bit about EMRs and getting the medical records and the latency, but every day, is there something on your mind that's like, man, I wish there was a solution for this?
Yeah, I wish that there were actual software programs that were made for specific areas. So there is one for internal medicine, but they also use it for family practice. Then there's a hospital-based one, but there's not one, just straight up for home care or for physical therapy or for, occupational therapy, and definitely not for hospice or pain and palliative. So we're always piecemealing and try to figure out what's going to work for us, what's not going to work for us. And then to be in compliance with our accreditation boards, there's several different accreditation boards. JCO is one, CHAPS is another one, ACHC is another one. They all have different platforms that they use that they want for us to stay into compliance. So our software has to be in the same, I guess, what they think is compliant for them. So, and things are always changing, and the medical field is always advancing. So the software that we have to use is like 10 years behind of what all the technology is out there for medical, or even the drugs. So I wish that there would be a company that could build me my own software of what I would like. But yeah, in the medical field, and I don't know about Ultras and Punahou, but in our field, it's constantly advancing. There's new drugs coming out, there's new procedures coming out, so I don't think it's being upkept.
You know, we looked into the EHR space. Oh my gosh, there's so many players. It is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Mario. I'm a founder, and I have a solution related to Wi-Fi that has a cybersecurity component in it. The question is for Hoala, but feel free to step in. Obviously, your company grow very fast. You have regulation that requires that your customer use your product or a similar product. So what would you say would have happened if the regulation wouldn't be there? The fact that your customer needs to be educated, either it comes from them knowing the problem and looking for you, vice versa, you going after them and scare them like, hey, you have to be compliant, you know? So how does that, you know, the regulatory thing plays in your relationship? You know, new regulation, oh, you gotta do this update, you know? Can you explain and tell me a little bit more about this?
Gavin?
Definitely don't scare them. I think it goes back to that partnership thing, right? In our space, there's a lot of compliance. There's now when you list a posting, you have to list the salary range that wasn't there before, and that's now a requirement. And so when we have conversations with our customers, we let them know that we see the legislation that's coming. Have they started thinking about it? If they haven't, they can partner with us. We have the tools built out in the in the application already, and we can start to train them and prepare them for that transition. So I'd err away from scaring them. And partner with them. And your solution might not have the piece they need now, but unless you're talking to them, you're never going to know that, right? And they might, say something like, "We need something very specific," and I hear that, and I think maybe we could build that, or So yeah, it's part of that conversation, going back and forth with your customer.
But I think also if you don't look as compliance as a like it's a bad thing. I think if you approach your customers of that, look, we're an insurance policy for you. We're like your insurance policy. We're the ones that's gonna like help you through this. If something hits you, if something, if there's a breach, that's what we're there for. So I think if you approach it that way, as we're here to partner with you and we're here to help you, I think that's how we view it,
You're lifting a burden for them. Your product as a whole is solving something for them, and this is just another aspect of that.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that. As a private school, we actually don't have very many regulatory obligations. The pitch for me, the hook for me was that it saves time, it reduces friction for my end users, it reduces complexity, and so those are all wins for me. If I can implement a solution that removes security from even having to be a thought in an educator's mind, then that frees them up to be an educator, not have to worry about, can I send this email? Do I need to flip this switch? Do I need, what's the regulatory, obligation, if I send this release form out? I don't want any of my educators thinking about that. I want them to be thinking about how they can educate our kids. And so for me, it was it wasn't a regulatory pitch for me at all. This is a quality of life thing for our staff and faculty.
Thanks,
Thank you
Bo.
very much. Thank you.
I think we got time for one more, Michael. Is that about right?
For you, we can one more.
All right, one more.
My name is Steve. I'm a software engineer, currently job seeking. You mentioned that the story began with somebody who had a problem with HIPAA compliance communication, right? And yet you also mentioned that Ultras was one of your first, if not your first client. Did I get that messed up?
Make-A-Wish Foundation of Hawaii.
Okay, and then Ultras like almost immediately after, is that right?
4 years later.
Oh, okay. So
There's a relationship there as well.
Sienna Austin Hunt now works at Ultras.
Well, Hawaii.
So my question was, actually HIPAA hasn't been mentioned much. You've actually, the word security has come up a lot more than just HIPAA. So how quickly, and was it through customer feedback, did you quickly discover that people out there had a much broader secure communications problems than just HIPAA compliance?
So for Make-A-Wish Foundation of Hawaii, at the time they described the problem. There's a lot of sensitive information going around granting a wish for a child, medical diagnosis, credit card, date of birth. So they thought they had to be HIPAA compliant, and then they also realized it didn't matter. They just had to maintain a high standard. So HIPAA was the standard to abide by. And then I started talking to more customers about it, PAL spam customers, and turns out, yeah, all of them had this big problem. And all of them were using fax machines. So then, as a way for content marketing and for me to learn more about the industry, I started going to these boring government pages and just translating them to normal speak. And that became our content generation machine. And then I started blogging about the HIPAA violations that were being doled out, and there were a lot of them. And those were also good content machines. So I think for me, HIPAA became the target because of the huge opportunity, the fax machine, 10,000 Americans retiring every day, which puts burden on the healthcare system, which causes more people to work in the healthcare system. And so that's kind of where I went to HIPAA. Yeah. And so now we like to think we know what we're talking about, at least in HIPAA. FINRA, all this other stuff, GDPR, we're okay, but HIPAA, we're dialed in. And turns out there's 1.4 million organizations in the United States that have to be HIPAA compliant, and we currently have 6,000 customers. So, it's less than 1% market penetration, and we have a lot more to go. And so, yeah, we're just not going to stop. Just keep going.
Right on. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much.